So today we have our very first look at the potential balance changes coming next season of Clash Royale. But Supercell needs your help. This list is just a work in progress, and Supercell's releasing the information early to get your feedback to help determine the official balance changes that actually go live. So if you've ever wanted a chance to influence the actual balance changes that go live in Clash Royale, now is your chance. Just leave a comment down below or let Supercell know what you think of these possible balance changes. So with that being said, there are 11 potential cards that could be changed in this next balance update. The first is a massive buff for the Mother Witch with an 18% faster attack speed and a 25% faster first hit speed. This will make the Mother Witch much more punishing when she is in the arena, because if you remember, a couple of balances ago, she got her health nerfed where she now dies to an arrows plus a Zap spell, and as she currently is, she's fairly weak. She often dies even against swarm decks before getting any real value, before spawning any piggies out. But with this buff to her attack speed, she'll be much more punishing, especially against those swarm decks. Now the next change here is a buff for the Electro Giant with a 9% increase to his HP. Now I know what you guys are thinking, Electro Giant is extremely toxic, but as it currently is, it is one of the lowest win rate cards in the entire game. His health is so low that he dies super quickly and rarely ever gets to tower. So this health buff might be enough to make him more viable without making him as toxic as he was before. Now card number 3 over here is a nerf to the Goblin Drill, who secretly got buffed when the Mighty Miner released. If you guys didn't know, when they released the Mighty Miner, the Goblin Drill suddenly drilled faster as well, and that's why it's all over the meta right now. Well, this nerf is a 25% decrease to the drill speed of the Goblin Drill, making it get to towers significantly slower, which in the end will give you much more time to respond to that Goblin Drill before it starts dealing damage to your tower. Card number 4 over here is a buff for the Night Witch with a 13% faster attack speed. Change number 5 is going to be a nerf to the Skeleton King, whose max skeleton count with a fully charged ability going from 20 skeletons down to 18. Now the Skeleton King currently is one of the highest win rate cards in the entire game and one of the strongest of all of the champions. In a swarm deck, he is almost unstoppable because you can never keep up with all their swarm and then their instant 2-list graveyard whenever they choose with that Skeleton King. So the question is, will this change be enough to nerf the Skeleton King slightly without making him too underpowered? Moving on, we have a nerf to the single most popular card in the entire game, the Log. This one might be a pretty controversial change, but the idea here is to nerf the knockback distance of the Log by 50%. This is definitely going to be a hot take in the community, but like I said before, the Log currently is the #1 most popular card in the entire game, so maybe it is due for a bit of a nerf. Like I said before, this is a work in progress list, so if you like this change or don't like it, make sure you give Supercell your feedback. Moving on here, we have a nerf to another legendary card, the Royal Ghost, with the invisibility cooldown going from 1.6 seconds to 1.8 seconds, overall taking a little bit longer before going invisible, giving the opponent or giving you more time to answer it and more time to destroy it before it gets to your tower. Now moving on here, we have another nerf, and that is to the Barbarian Barrel, whose range would go from 5 tiles to 4.5 tiles, making it a bit shorter of a range, with the end result is if you use a Barbarian Barrel at the bridge, the Barbarian only gets 1 shot to a tower and not 2. Now this change might make a bit more sense after I announce the final one, and that is a buff for all of the Barbarians, with all Barbarians having a 7% faster attack speed. That would include Barbarians, Battle Ram, Barbarian Hut, and the Barbarian Barrel. So if that Barbarian Barrel nerf did not make sense, maybe it does now if they intend to buff the actual Barbarian. Because as it stands currently, almost all of the Barbarians aren't very viable in Clash Royale, aren't very popular. Barbarians, Battle Ram, and even the Barbarian Hut are fairly weak. Only the Barbarian Barrel is very popular. So it would make sense to buff all of the Barbs, but to compensate, give a very small nerf to that Barbarian Barrel. But those are the 11 potential changes: Mother Witch buff, Electro Giant buff, Goblin Drill nerf, Night Witch buff, Skeleton King nerf, Log nerf, Royal Ghost nerf, Barbarian Barrel kind of in the middle, and then a buff to all of the other barbarians. Now, like I mentioned before, this is just a work in progress. So if you like this list or don't like it or think they missed a very important change, maybe there's a card that you want to see buffed or nerfed, or maybe you have a really good idea of a cool change, all that feedback is very valuable. So make sure to leave a comment or go on Reddit and let Supercell know. Now, with that being said, I want to finish this video up by giving you my opinion on what I think of the potential balance changes and some of the cards that I think are missing. And to back up what I want to say, I have pulled up Royale API, which gives you some actual stats for the cards, like their win rates and their use rates, to back up some of these arguments. So starting out with the Mother Witch, I think the Mother Witch change is honestly pretty good. She's in a pretty rough spot right now, only a 45% win rate, and that is in a meta that's dominated by Swarm. Skeleton King and Tombstone decks are all over the place, and yet the Mother Witch is not thriving. She should be the perfect counter for all these Swarm decks, yet she just is not viable. So I definitely think a Mother Witch buff is justified. However, she might be a bit OP. Moving on to the Electro Giant, you can see how rough he currently is. Only a 1% usage in grand challenges with a 38% win rate. That is extremely low. If you are an E-Giant player and you played E-Giant before the nerf and then afterwards, you know what I'm talking about. The E-Giant's health is so low, he dies so quickly, so I definitely believe that this buff is justified for the Electro Giant. Goblin Drill, like I mentioned before, is currently dominating the meta. One of the highest used cards, highest win rate cards, got a secret buff, so I don't think anyone can really dispute the Goblin Drill getting a nerf. Night Witch, however, this one I find a bit interesting. It's in a decent spot right now, 51% win rate, 4% usage. It's right up there with some of the more popular cards in the meta right now. I do not think the Night Witch needs a buff. It is very powerful, especially in Golem beatdowns. And it's one of those cards that if you don't have an answer for all those bat swarms, it becomes very matchup dependent. So personally, I don't agree with the Night Witch buff. Skeleton King, however, he is one of the most dominant cards in the entire game. So I definitely agree with this nerf. In fact, I think they should nerf it even slightly more. My idea is that they make the spawn radius of these skeletons slightly smaller. And that way, whatever you have as a response for all those skeletons can hopefully catch a few more skeletons in there. Maybe you have Zap, maybe you have Log. If it is a smaller radius, you will catch more of the skeletons with your counter card. Because as it is right now, they spawn out 20 skeletons. Even if you log, you end up missing half of them and your tower still goes down. So I'm definitely in favor of a larger nerf for the Skeleton King. Now, the log spell might not appear to be up here at the top of the list. However, watch what happens when I change this to the usage. Boom. Number one card in the entire game. Almost a 50% use rate. Almost half the people in the entire game are all using the log. So I'm not too sure what to think. Log spell has been a staple of Clash Royale for a while, but you know what? Let's see what happens with some pretty crazy changes. Now, the Roller Ghost, this is what I mentioned already, might be pretty controversial, but check this out. Currently has a whopping 14% use rate and a 57% win rate. That is insane. That is better stats than the Golden Knight, which I think a lot of players might agree is a bit overpowered right now. And the Royal Ghost is outperforming even the champion, the Golden Knight. So while I do think it might be controversial, I think a nerf could definitely be justified for the Royal Ghost. And that leaves us with Barbarians. You can see right here, Barbarian Barrel, very popular, has a very strong win rate as well at 55%. But the rest of the Barbarians are all way down here. Elite Barbarians do not count, by the way. They are not getting changed. But the Barbarians right here, 1% usage, 49% win rate. Barbarian Hot, worst card in the game. And the Battle Ram is not much better as well. Only a 3% use rate. 51% win rate is okay. But honestly, using a Battle Ram is very, very difficult in Clash Royale to ever really get value. So I'm definitely in favor of the change. All these Barbarians down here getting some love, and the Barbarian Barrel kind of getting like a net neutral trade with the buff to the Barbarian, but a shorter range. So with that being said, what are some of the cards that I think they missed in this potential round of balance changes? Well, for one, I think think the Golden Knight. In my opinion, the Golden Knight is a little bit too strong right now. 16% use rate, 55% win rate, very, very strong stats, and I think it's just a bit too powerful. What I would love to see for the Golden Knight is either a nerf to his attack speed, very, very small nerf, or a very small nerf to his health. But beyond that, there's not too many other cards that I really think need a massive nerf right now in the meta. Instead, I would love to see a bit more buffs for some of these more underused cards down here. Things like Executioner could use a rework. Wizard could use a rework. Only a 25% win rate with a 2% use rate. Very, very low stats. I think the Wizard is a prime candidate for a potential redesign. Maybe they just completely rework the card from ground up. And same thing can be said for the Firecracker. The Firecracker arguably has very low stats. Only a 30% win rate, one of the lowest win rates in the entire game. However, it also is one of the most annoying cards to face. And I think whenever you have a card that is both annoying and also does not win very much, that makes it a prime candidate for a potential redesign. And I would love to see the Firecracker either attack faster or have her projectile travel faster so she misses less targets. However, make her pushback significantly less, because that is the most annoying aspect of the Firecracker, when she continually knocks herself back and stays out of enemies' ranges and builds up on their side of the arena. So if you get rid of the annoying factor while also making her a bit stronger, maybe she'll be consistently a bit more viable, but also less hated in Clash Royale. So what do you guys and girls think? Leave your feedback down below. Like I said before, this is just a work in progress. So now is one of your best opportunities ever to have some impact on the next balance changes. So that's it for me, guys and girls. Thank you for watching. We shall see you all in the next one.